What is up? GoodMicWork back at you for the first commentary of 2016. I hope everybody had an awesome new year, ready to kick off yet another year here on the GoodMicWork channel. Really excited for 2016. Hopefully it'll be a lot of fun. But now the new year and all the holiday bullshit is finally over and we can get back to normal, and we started our normal life back with the first Raw of 2016, and that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. In addition to a review of the January 4th edition of Monday Night Raw, I'll also get into a few other news tidbits as well, including The Rock being at WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar returning next week, SmackDown moving over to the USA Network, and WWE reportedly signing a whole bunch of talent from Japan. All that and more coming up here in episode 306. A few channel announcements first. Number one, if you hear any noise or feedback in the background, it's because it is raining its fucking balls off here in San Diego. El Nino is sticking its big veiny dick right up my ass, and it sucks. It's been pouring rain for what seems like the last 8 hours straight, which is very rare for these parts, and it's a very wet and annoying day today, and the rain is hitting the roof so damn hard it sounds like tater tots are hitting the roof. So I apologize if any of you hear any of this rain as I'm doing this commentary. As usual, I do want to welcome all the first-time listeners. If you're here for the first time, welcome aboard. If you like what you hear, please give that like button a click and subscribe to my channel. I also have a second channel. Link is in the description below. Sub that. It's been a little bit dormant for the past couple of months, but I just uploaded a few more GoodMicWork clips, and I usually just use that channel for random stuff. So there are a few other videos right now, some snippets of commentaries that I've done in the past, and I am going to try to start doing a little bit more with that channel whenever I have time. If you'd rather download the MP3 to this episode and listen to it on your device or in your car instead of watching the YouTube video, you can do that by going to my website, GoodMicWorkCommentaries.com, or you can find me on iTunes and Stitcher Radio. I also want to let my listeners know that production on the WrestleMania's commentary has begun. It's looking really badass, really excited to get this done. Hopefully it'll be, end of February, early March. I don't want to take any more than a month or so to do this. And since I originally planned to do this commentary last year, a lot of the preliminary work on the commentary was already complete from a year ago. So I'm off to a really good start on it, really excited about it. Should definitely be at least as long as the SummerSlam Memories one, probably longer. And I'm shooting for this to be one of the best videos I've ever done. And I think it's going to be perfect for the WrestleMania season that we are now officially right in the middle of. Also, I want to thank everybody out there for the awesome feedback I've been getting so far on my year-end commentary. Hasn't got quite as many views as I was hoping. I feel like the view count is a little low, but still, the feedback on it has been fantastic. Let's get into what we're going to talk about tonight. The January 4th, 2016 edition of Monday Night Raw. Not the greatest show in the world and an incredibly dead crowd. But I think the importance level of the show was elevated a great deal, of course, after the main event when the big bombshell was dropped about the Royal Rumble, and we're going to get into all of that. We'll start right with that main event storyline and WWE Champion Roman Reigns. He opens up the show with Stephanie McMahon. She starts coming down to the ring right as Raw begins with her shitty music. That's one thing about Stephanie. Damn, I've always hated every single one of her theme songs. I think they're so ridiculous, and luckily, this one didn't even get 10 seconds in, and Roman Reigns' music starts playing, and he interrupts her and starts coming down through the crowd as she's coming down through the aisle. And the two of them get in the ring together and start cutting a promo. Stephanie, of course, is all up Roman Reigns' ass. He's got the big title match tonight against Sheamus, with Vince McMahon being the special referee. It's been a long time since we've seen Vince wear the zebra stripes, but he's going to do that tonight in the attempt to screw over Roman Reigns because the Authority and the McMahons do not want him as WWE Champion. I liked Roman Reigns' promo on Raw a lot better than his recent promos because, first of all, the entire opening segment was about 10 to 15 minutes shorter than most opening segments have been on Monday Night Raw lately, and the promo was a little shorter, quicker, a lot more serious, a lot less fun and games, and more of a serious Roman. As a matter of fact, he threatened Stephanie. He's like, look, if your old man fucks me over, then I'm going to fuck him up something good, and I like that. He even calls out Vince McMahon to the ring. He wants to tell him to his face and warn him not to screw him over. But Stephanie says Vince isn't there. He'll be arriving later on. Vince, in fact, does pull up in a limo, I don't know, probably less than an hour later or so, and actually approaches Sheamus and Roman Reigns both in the backstage area, giving him his referee pre-match instructions. He's saying, no use of foreign objects, and no this, and no that. Yeah, Vince, I think these guys know the fucking rules. Kind of seemed like a pointless segment, but there was definitely tension between him and Roman Reigns. Now you fast forward to the actual main event. We knew that Roman Reigns was going to come out of this thing as the WWE Champion. I did not see, even with this big match on Raw for the title, with Vince being the referee, there was no way in hell Sheamus was going to win that belt back. So you knew they were going to do something where Reigns would survive this onslaught from the Authority and the McMahons and wind up beating Sheamus anyway. He did, with a whole lot of outside interference. One of my favorite spots in the match is where, Vince goes down to pin Sheamus, but then something's in his eye and he can't complete the 3 count. Roman Reigns gets Sheamus down again, and Vince just flat out will not count the 3, just stands there staring at him. And then Roman Reigns is like, all right, motherfucker, watch this. Watch what I'm about to do to Sheamus. And he sets up for the big Superman punch on Sheamus, but then turns around and nails Vince instead. Vince crumbles to the mat, taking a horrible Vince McMahon bump, but he is 70 years old, so he gets a pass now for looking so ridiculous. And is it just me, or did Vince McMahon miss his cue or something, or did he fuck up or forgot what he was supposed to do? Did you guys catch that? So after Reigns punches him out, Sheamus and Roman start brawling some more and fighting some more. Vince McMahon is then back up on his feet, and he looks like nothing's wrong, and he's back officiating the match. And then Sheamus, I think, hits Roman Reigns with the brogue kick? He gets down to pin Roman Reigns, and Vince McMahon goes to make the 3 count, and right as he starts doing it, I think he remembers that he's supposed to be dazed and confused and out of it from the Superman punch. So he immediately stops. Scott Armstrong runs down to the ring instead, who of course has been in the pocket of the Authority for years, and tries to count the 3 on Roman Reigns, and he kicks out. So that whole thing I liked. I mean, that was Vince fucking up. Imagine if a wrestler did that, Vince would chew him out in the backstage area, but I guess nobody can chew Vince out. But it definitely looked a little bit awkward, the way Vince was standing up seemingly okay, and then kind of remembered that he's still supposed to be hurt, and he falls back down to the mat like that. Pretty funny. I kind of got a kick out of that, and then I think Roman Reigns also nailed Scott Armstrong, right? And then they did the other spot where Stephanie, of course, is out there. She climbs up on the ring ropes, and Roman Reigns takes Vince and just kind of throws him into her, and she flies into the ring. He falls out of the ring. The McMahons are stumbling and bumbling all over themselves, and Roman's kind of standing there laughing at the two of them. Finally nails Sheamus with a spear, and a brand new, unbiased referee runs down to the ring to make the 3 count. So neither Vince nor Scott Armstrong was able to count the 3. Roman Reigns does defeat Sheamus, gets the win, and retains the WWE title. Stephanie and Vince are all pissed off, and they're retreating up the ramp, and then Vince gets on the mic and says, you know what? That's fine, you won tonight, but you're going to defend the WWE title again, and you're going to defend it at the Royal Rumble. Not in a match, but in the Royal Rumble match itself. Now, there was a lot of speculation about this. A lot of fans called this out. I had people telling me on Twitter and Facebook and in the YouTube comments, I think Roman Reigns is going to have to defend the WWE title in the Royal Rumble. I was resistant to that idea because I didn't think they would do it. I just thought that after they put the title on the line, in the big tournament at Survivor Series, I don't know if they would do something similar like that again at a pay-per-view 2 months later. The WWE champion, especially around WrestleMania season, it seems like they need to have a good, solid champion in place. And I didn't want to see the title flip-flop back and forth 2 or 3 times during the months of December and January because, the champion going into Mania, I think, needs to be a solid guy. So that was the only reason I was resistant to it. But storyline-wise, it made perfect sense, of course. If the McMahons really want to get the belt off of Roman, what better way to do it than have him defend his title against 29 men? Now, I'm wondering if they're going to go one further and make him number 1 in the Royal Rumble or something like this. Now, this really opens up the door for a lot of speculation. Now, one question I have right off the bat about this is that if Roman Reigns is defending the WWE title in the Royal Rumble match itself, who gets the title shot at WrestleMania, and how do they decide that? I would think one option would be Roman Reigns maybe losing the title in the Royal Rumble and getting the title shot at WrestleMania. That could be one way to do it. Now, so far, the fans seem very pleased with this stipulation because now it gives us something different in the Royal Rumble. The WWE title has not been on the line in the Rumble since when Flair won it in 92? They were way overdue doing this again, and it definitely adds an excitement and interest level in the Royal Rumble because, as we know, the past 2 or 3 Royal Rumbles have been garbage. So far, the feedback seems to be positive from the fans as far as this stipulation being added, but one thing that worries me is that what if Roman Reigns wins? What if the Royal Rumble's great, but Roman Reigns still wins and retains his title? Will the fans shit on it the way they did last year? Hopefully they won't. I guess it depends all on how the whole thing is booked. I don't even know where to begin on this. I think this is a really good chance for the WWE to stack this Royal Rumble. Think about it. If the WWE title is on the line, don't do what you did at Survivor Series and put a bunch of nobodies in the tournament. You need some big, giant, huge names. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said nobodies. Those men that competed at Survivor Series were not nobodies, but you didn't have the big names in there. No John Cena, no Brock Lesnar, no Randy Orton, nothing like that. So in this Royal Rumble, I think it needs to be stacked with just about every single big name star that the WWE can get in there, including Brock Lesnar, who it was announced on Raw that he will be making his return next week on Monday Night Raw. So he's either going to do one of two things. He's going to come out there and begin a feud with someone else leading into WrestleMania, or he's going to declare himself an entrant in the Royal Rumble. Now imagine that. Imagine if Brock is in there. And what about Cena? Cena's going to come back, I'm sure. He's already been back already, and he wasn't on Raw tonight, was he? But I'm guessing that when he does return, I would like to see him pick up his feud back with Alberto Del Rio and eventually win the U.S. title back. If he does that, you know he'll be out of the world title picture at least. But he could compete in the Royal Rumble, and I think he should compete in the Royal Rumble. The bigger names in there, in my mind, the better. Because if you got Cena, and you got Brock, and you got Roman Reigns in the Royal Rumble, it's anybody's game. It's no longer predictable because you don't know who could win. Any of those guys could win. Put Randy Orton in the Royal Rumble too. Don't announce his return, just have him show up in the Royal Rumble. That's another major name. And we also saw big-time roster members in the WWE declaring themselves eligible for the Royal Rumble on Raw as well tonight. So I think WWE has a chance to really stack this Royal Rumble and make it one of the most star-studded in many, many years. And I'd also like to see some guys do double duty. I remember in '92 when Roddy Piper fought the Mountie for the Intercontinental title in the beginning of the show, but he also competed in the Royal Rumble match and had a chance to win the WWE title. He had a chance to win 2 belts that night, and he almost fucking did it. So John Cena, what if he works Alberto Del Rio for the U.S. title in the undercard and then goes into the Royal Rumble match to get a shot at the WWE title? John Cena could wind up walking out of there with both belts. I don't think he would, but I think it would be a cool internal storyline to have John Cena possibly winning 2 belts, and that could really get the fans, underwear in a tizzy, where they actually might welcome a Roman Reigns victory if it came down to that. So WWE, if they're going to do this, which obviously they are, they have to stack the Royal Rumble. This is the WWE title. The winner will most likely go into WrestleMania as champion. You want the biggest names possible in there, and it can't just be Roman Reigns against Rusev and Alberto Del Rio and Kalisto and all that shit. It's got to be the main names, the major, huge names. Bring back a surprise or two. We all heard about 3 or 4 guys from Japan coming over, including AJ Styles. You can put some of those guys in there. The NXT crew can make appearances. Finn Balor, Samoa Joe could all get spots in the Royal Rumble. You add the major roster members in the WWE all in that Royal Rumble, and if any of them have matches in the undercard, I want them to be in the Rumble as well. I think everybody should pull double duty. Titles on the line, you got to pull out all the stops. There's 30 spots available, and make sure it's the 30 best possible wrestlers you can have in this thing to give the fans some sort of break from the predictability of Royal Rumbles. And I think WWE has a big chance here to do something fun. I think it's too early in my mind to speculate who will win or how they will win. I don't know what you guys are thinking. I just haven't put that much thought into it as in what direction they're going in. I think we'll know a little bit more next week after Brock Lesnar comes back and we see what his intentions are. If he comes out there with Paul Heyman and Paul Heyman says Brock is back for one reason and one reason only, and that's to reclaim the title that he never lost, and he wants a shot at it, and he's going to declare himself eligible for the Royal Rumble, or he will challenge the winner of the Royal Rumble or something like that. Or he'll come out there and cut a promo, someone major will interrupt him, and that can be your big storyline going into WrestleMania. Who would interrupt him? Who would he work with? I have no idea. A lot of people want to see Brock work with Kevin Owens, but given what he's doing right now with Dean Ambrose and the Intercontinental title, I don't see it being him. He's done with Undertaker as well, as we all know, and the only real unfinished business that he has left with anybody would be Roman Reigns. No one won that match between the two of them last year at WrestleMania, and I've been saying for a long time that I would be completely in favor of a Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar rematch for the WWE title at WrestleMania 32. I thought their match at 31 was very good. I think they can have an equally good one at WrestleMania 32. And now it's just a matter of who will be champion. Will Roman Reigns be defending the belt against Brock, or will Brock be defending the belt against him? Maybe Brock goes into the Rumble and he's dominant. Maybe he just destroys everybody and throws guy after guy over the top rope and winds up eliminating Roman Reigns as well and winning the WWE title. And then Roman Reigns figures out a way to get himself a title shot at WrestleMania and Brock drops the belt to him. But I don't know if that's an option anymore because Roman Reigns already won the belt in beautiful fashion on Monday Night Raw a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if they're going to give him the big moment at WrestleMania now that he's already a bona fide top guy on the roster and WWE champion. And don't forget about Triple H. We know his unfinished business with Roman Reigns after Roman Reigns kicked the shit out of him at Survivor Series. So what if Triple H continues to sell that injury? And then in the Royal Rumble, Roman Reigns has survived all the way to the end, and number 30 turns out to be Triple H as a surprise entrant, and he throws Roman Reigns over the top rope and wins the WWE title. Don't discount Triple H and what that could mean, because after what they did at Survivor Series, we were all thinking that a Roman Reigns Triple H match at WrestleMania was likely. Whether or not the belt will be involved, I guess that remains to be seen. But maybe Triple H wants to be the big star that puts Roman Reigns over at WrestleMania, and maybe all of this is building to that. So what are we going to see happen? I'm curious to get everybody else's opinions and thoughts on it. I'm sure I'll have a better idea in the next few days here as to what WWE might do. But right now, like I said, provided that they stack the Royal Rumble with a lot of major names, I think we have a chance to see something that we're not expecting. And the Royal Rumble will not be predictable like it has been the past couple of years. WWE, if you're listening, I'm telling you, load this thing up. Put all those guys in there. Hell, put The Undertaker in the Royal Rumble. Why not? Imagine how awesome that would be if Taker made an appearance in the Royal Rumble. Maybe whoever eliminates him can work with him at WrestleMania or something like that. So I really want to see this Royal Rumble stacked with as many people as possible. And I guess we'll get more answers as we draw closer to the pay-per-view. As far as what else we saw on Monday Night Raw, pretty good amount of matches on the show. Like I said, dead crowd up until that main event and the bombshell that was dropped by Vince that Roman would be defending the belt at the Royal Rumble. It was really kind of a lackluster show. I was yawning, getting very bored, but we did see a few significant things happen, including a new faction. We opened up the show with Owens beating Neville in a rematch from last week. Of course, Neville got that really quick victory on Kevin Owens, which caused him to snap. He's still involved with Dean Ambrose in the Intercontinental title situation. Dean was out there doing commentary. Neville and Owens have a competitive match this time, a really, really good match, and Owens ends up getting the victory. Now, after the match, he starts attacking Neville again, starts just putting the boots to him outside of the ring. Of course, that prompts Dean Ambrose off of the announce booth. He runs and attacks Kevin Owens, ends up beating the shit out of him, and drops an elbow on him on the announce table and destroys that. So one match in, the announce table was already gone. And I didn't even notice. Did they fix that or not? Did those guys actually have to work the other 2.5 hours of the show without an announce table? I didn't even notice. But pretty good opening match and good opening segment. And, you know, there's a lot of heat and there's a lot of intensity between Kevin Owens and Dean Ambrose. I like this feud. Apparently, there is a WWE Intercontinental title match scheduled for the debut on USA Network of SmackDown this coming Thursday night. This actually might be a good place to put the belt back on Kevin Owens. A lot of us speculated that the only reason Dean Ambrose won the title to begin with at TLC was because so many heels were winning and so many belts were being retained at the pay-per-view. They almost like had to put it on Dean, and there was a really good chance they could take it back off of him. So if they want to launch SmackDown on the USA Network and have something big happen on their inaugural show, an IC title change between two really good wrestlers in the company, I think would be a good way to do it, and I'd have no problem with it. I love Kevin Owens as Intercontinental Champion. I like Dean Ambrose as well. I think it's cool, being a big Shield fan like I am, to see Roman as the WWE Champion and Dean as the Intercontinental Champion. I think I compared him in my last commentary to what? The two dudes with attitudes? Remember that? I mean, when you think about it, the Shield, oh my God, how much success have they had? Technically, you've got two world champions in the Shield right now because Seth never lost the title and Roman Reigns is the current title holder. And then you got Dean right in the middle holding the underneath belts. And we all knew that all three of those Shield members were going to go on to huge things in the WWE, and they really have. Unbelievable. We also finally got the Charlotte heel turn on Raw that WWE has really been dragging their feet with, much like they did with Paige. How it appeared that she turned heel, but then really didn't turn heel, and they just drug it out for a few more weeks. So Charlotte, same thing, starts to cheat in matches, starts relying on her father to help her win, but yet she's still technically not a heel, and she's still running around with Becky, despite the fact she's been having matches with her and cheating to win those matches. So the girls are going to work again on Monday Night Raw in a match that they're calling friendly competition. And as usual, Ric Flair tries to interfere on Charlotte's behalf. Becky is able to reverse it and roll up Charlotte and hold her tights and get the pin. So Becky pulls one over on her now by holding her tights down and getting an unfair advantage, which really was all just started by Ric Flair. It's not like Becky cheated. Flair cheated first, and then she just outsmarted him. That was enough to make Charlotte snap. Now all of a sudden cheating is not okay. She's pissed off. How could Becky do this to me? And then she attacks her from behind, beats the fucking crap out of her. So that will probably be your WWE title feud going into the Royal Rumble, and I'm fine with that. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they gave Becky a small run with that Divas title and have her feud with Charlotte back and forth for a couple of pay-per-views. So my early prediction actually might be that Becky beats Charlotte for the title at the Royal Rumble. WWE was pissing us off before Raw even started on Monday as well by announcing on Twitter that Ryback would be taking on the Big Show in a one-on-one match on Raw. And we were all like, oh, for fuck's sake, are you kidding me? They're doing this again? I would rather take a shower with Caitlyn Jenner than watch this fucking match over and over. I don't know what it is. Why they keep giving us this shit match. Nobody wants to see it. It's horrible. It's slow. It's boring. You couldn't pick two worse guys to put in there to pretend to have a believable match against each other. I've said before that it looks like two rhinos fucking, and it's just horrendous. Luckily, the WWE was only doing that match to set up the Wyatt family, who came out there and interrupted the whole thing mid-match and beat the crap out of Ryback and the Big Show. So I've lost track. I don't even know. Is Big Show heel or babyface? You guys got to fill me in on that. I have no idea. If he was a heel, it looks like he's babyface again because the Wyatt family kicked his ass, and then the Wyatts declared all four of them will be in the Royal Rumble. Now, I like that. Big Show, I think, is in as well, but the Wyatts being in, Bray Wyatt is basically like, hey, these three guys, including Braun Strowman, are going to be there to make sure that I'm there at the end and I win the WWE title. So Bray Wyatt actually has a legitimate shot, storyline-wise, to win the Royal Rumble because he's got three of his cronies there. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Braun Strowman in the Royal Rumble does the diesel. Every time they're trying to get somebody over, somebody goes out there and cleans house and eliminates 8 or 10 guys. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Braun Strowman's the guy that does that this year. Wouldn't even be surprised if they use the Royal Rumble to maybe tease some dissension in the Wyatt family. Maybe Bray has things well in hand and somebody turns on him or doesn't want to help him out. Maybe Braun Strowman, after being so dominant, maybe Bray orders him to do something and he doesn't want to do it. He wants to win the WWE title for himself, and the two of them wind up fighting and eliminating each other, and that can cause your split. I don't know, but the Wyatt family as a whole, an entire group faction being in the Royal Rumble, I think sets up a pretty awesome internal storyline. Didn't Bray Wyatt do this once before with the Wyatts where they were out there to try to help him in one of the Royal Rumbles? I can't remember, but it looks like they're going to do that again this year. They weren't the only ones to declare for the Royal Rumble. So did Chris Jericho, who was rumored that he was backstage at Raw, so I think we expected to see him. It wasn't that much of a surprise. He came out and interrupted the New Day, which I kind of liked, cut one of his typical Y2J promos. The fans only seemed semi-into it, but I love the back and forth between him and the New Day. I was kind of hoping Jericho and the New Day would be friends, not enemies, but Jericho says that he's entering himself into the Royal Rumble, and he'll be there to toss out 29 jackasses, including the 3 of them in the ring, if need be. New Day, of course, is so pissed off at Jericho interrupting their promo, and their unicorn horns are going all out of whack on their heads and stuff, and they're pissed off. And then they have to work a 6-man match against the Dudleys and Kalisto. Sin Cara is injured with a separated shoulder or something like that, so Kalisto is kind of on his own. He teams up with the Dudley boys, and they lose to the New Day, which is good. We also saw a debut of a brand new faction tonight on Monday Night Raw, which none of us saw coming, unless they have done something on SmackDown that I've missed. I did not see the alliance between Heath Slater and Bo Dallas and Adam Rose and Curtis Axel coming. But Heath Slater comes out there with his match with Dolph Ziggler. He's accompanied by all 3 of those guys, and he ends up beating Ziggler with a distraction roll-up because all the members of this new faction are out there distracting Ziggler. So really, Ziggler losing is no big deal. He lost a 4-on-1 match, not a big deal there. Slater ends up getting a victory over former World Heavyweight Champion, and then announces in the aisleway on the mic that he's found some friends. Now, to me, it's a very strange alliance. Obviously, these are 4 guys that are just sitting there collecting dust that the WWE is trying to figure out something to do with. And when you think about it, Curtis Axel, to me, doesn't really fit. Now, I know his character was a joke when he was doing the Hulk Hogan impersonation and with Damian Sandow and all of that. So I know his character was a little goofy, but when you look at the other 3 guys, who Heath Slater is a complete joke, Adam Rose also a complete joke, and Bo Dallas is just a complete fucking idiot. Curtis Axel gets on the mic and cuts like a really serious promo. I was lost and now I'm found, and he's very pissed off and very angry. He doesn't match the other 3 guys. I mean, they're all out there laughing and smiling and giggling and acting like idiots, and Axel is like Mr. Serious Man. So I don't know if Axel being in this faction really fits. They should have put Damian Sandow in this faction instead. And where the fuck is he, by the way? Will somebody explain that to me? Does he even still work there? Mother of fuck, I would love to see Damian Sandow get back out there at some point. But these guys even had a name picked out for their faction. They're called Social Outcasts, kind of like a job squad kind of thing. And I'm actually fine with this. I mean, at least it's something. At least these guys are doing something. And provided that the WWE actually follows through with this and gives it some time, because as we've seen with factions, namely the New Day, this shit doesn't get over right away. And the League of Nations so far has been pretty much a bust. It's not, they're not that strong of a faction. Wade Barrett's only out there half the time. Rusev and Del Rio are doing a lot of tags together, and Sheamus, of course, as the leader. He's already lost the WWE title. It's just not really much of a faction. Now they're doing another one, another four-man group, which, like I said, I'm fine with, provided WWE books this properly and gives these guys a chance and gives them something significant to do and not making them too much of a joke. Like, I understand Adam Rose and Bo Dallas have to be funny and they have to be, tongue-in-cheek and stupid, and there's going to be a little humor involved, but I don't want them to be a faction version of Santino Marella. Come to think of it, wouldn't it be cool if Adam Rose and Curtis Axel formed a tag team and called themselves Axel Rose? How funny would that be? That was pretty much all the major stuff on the show. We had a couple of meaningless matches thrown in there as well. For some reason, Titus O'Neil took on Stardust and beat him. Don't even know why those guys had a match, but it was what it was. We also saw Del Rio and Rusev pick up a victory against the Usos in a tag team match. So those matches were also on the card. All in all, not a great Raw, but we did see some significant things because there was a big blockbuster announcement regarding the Royal Rumble. Charlotte did finally turn heel, and we got a brand new faction formed. So it was a decent way to kick off 2016, but all in all, the show was not that exciting, and the crowd was dead as shit. Before I get out of here, we'll touch on a few other news tidbits. Like I mentioned earlier on, The Rock has announced this week that he's going to be at WrestleMania 32 officially in some capacity. Now, there's been talk that he would not be wrestling because he's going to be filming a movie at the same time of WrestleMania, and for insurance and liability purposes, he probably cannot wrestle, so most likely he won't be, but he's still making it sound like he's going to have a significant role. But we don't know what that is yet. He's not going to be the host. They already tried that. He's already released a video or two on Twitter hyping WrestleMania, so he's going to be there in some form or capacity in a major way. Now, what I'm thinking they might do is, what about the Hall of Fame? We need a headliner this year. There's no real front-runner. I've mentioned time and time again that I would love for it to be The Undertaker, but I'm not sure if we're going to see that happen. I've also mentioned that I would love for it to be Sting. Either one of those two guys would definitely be headliners. Other than that, who does that really leave? And I think if The Rock cannot wrestle, I think this would be a good year to put him in the Hall of Fame. He can still continue to wrestle in the future. If he ever comes back to work a match, there's nothing wrong with him being a WWE Hall of Famer that gets in the ring. There's no law that says once you're a Hall of Famer, you can't work anymore. So if they put him in now, I'd be totally fine with it. I'd love to see The Rock honored and go into the WWE Hall of Fame. And then any match he works from here on out, he will be doing so as a WWE Hall of Famer. His speech would be great. His inductor would probably be great. Who do you think would induct him? I'd say maybe Stone Cold. That would be my number one pick to induct The Rock. I mean, arguably two of the biggest stars ever in the history of wrestling. At least 2 out of the 3. But right now, if he's not going to be involved in a match, but he's still going to do something significant, then what could that be? I think Hall of Fame would be your most logical choice. If it's not, we got to explore other options for the big headliner. They should start announcing Hall of Fame inductees, I would guess, by next Monday night on Raw. Usually the first or second week in January, they start announcing them, and generally they start with the headliner. I know they haven't always done that, but I think with, like Bret Hart and Randy Savage and Ultimate Warrior, I think all those guys were announced right away, right off the bat as, the headliners, even though last year, I guess Savage wasn't technically the headliner, Nash was, because Savage is no longer alive and he couldn't be there in person, so they couldn't put him on last. That'll probably be the same case with Owen Hart when and if he ever gets into the Hall of Fame. I don't think Owen would be the show closer there because of the somber nature of his death and everything surrounding the whole Owen Hart situation. I think that would have to be a middle of the show type of thing. So I think Owen is out as the headliner. So you're really only talking about The Rock, The Undertaker, Sting, possibly Kurt Angle. Could be another guy that they could close out the show with, but I don't know if they would want to surround the whole Hall of Fame around Kurt Angle, a guy that hasn't even worked in the company in about 10 years. I think if Kurt Angle ever goes back into the WWE Hall of Fame, they want to get him maybe in the ring, maybe work a small program just so they have some new footage to use of him for video packages and shit like that. So Kurt Angle could be another name, but again, I don't think he'd be the headliner this year. So The Rock right now, as far as what he's teasing for WrestleMania, I say he might be an early candidate to go into the Hall of Fame this year. Vader has also gone on Twitter claiming that he might be inducted in the Hall of Fame. I mean, all he did was tweet a picture of the Hall of Fame logo, so maybe they called him up and said, we want you to go in. A lot of fans were telling me on Monday before the show, hey, Vader's going into the Hall of Fame, which I talked about Vader. He was one of the people when I did my Hall of Fame segment in my year-end commentary. He was one of the people that I mentioned that should go in this year because he deserves it. He's a former world champion and he's an icon, and he should go into the WWE Hall of Fame, but I don't think he would be the headliner, definitely not. And I don't know if Vader would necessarily be the first guy they announce. Yeah, he might be going into the Hall of Fame, but they might not announce him for another month. I don't know if Vader will be the first guy that they announce. I just don't see it being him. SmackDown, of course, as I mentioned earlier, does move over to the USA Network this week, and I'm glad. To me, it should have always been there. USA Network has been with WWE for so many years, dating back to the early 80s. USA Network should just be your one-stop shop for everything WWE as far as TV goes. I've never liked the way they've spread out their shows on so many networks because it's so hard to keep track. And SmackDown, we know, has bounced around to several networks over the years. So putting them on the network that really is the WWE's home, I think will be good for SmackDown. It's probably still not going to be a show I'm going to watch a whole lot of, but I think USA Network has so many years of experience of showing and promoting WWE content that really they were the most logical choice for a new home for SmackDown. I'm glad they're going to the USA Network, and I hope they stay there. And finally, the last piece of news I will touch on before I get out of here, just broke in the last day or two, is that it is rumored that WWE has signed a handful of pretty big names from Japan, including AJ Styles. Now, that's pretty big news if it is indeed true. I think they also mentioned Luke Gallows, who's been in the WWE before, Carl Anderson, who I don't know that much about, and Nakamura, who I've seen a few matches of. He's the tall, lanky guy, right? He's pretty good, too. So I don't know what all these guys are going to do, if they're going to go to NXT. AJ Styles is kind of up there in age. How old is he? Late 30s? He could be approaching 40. You know, he can't really afford to spend 3 years in NXT. He's got to be like a main roster guy. I wouldn't be surprised at all if some of these guys make an appearance in the Royal Rumble, and if the fans know who they are and how big of a pop they're going to get. You know, I think the WWE can play it off as, you know, the WWE's title is at stake. Wrestlers are coming out of the woodwork from all over the world to get a title shot, so bringing in those guys from Japan and having them get spots in the Royal Rumble, or at least one or two of them getting a spot in the Royal Rumble, I think would be a big deal, especially for a guy like AJ Styles, who's pretty well known and is a damn good wrestler and doesn't need a whole lot of grooming in NXT. He's pretty much ready to go on the main roster. Nakamura, I don't believe, is any spring chicken either. He's a little bit up there in age, too. So these guys can't really, you know, sign developmental deals because they make so much money in Japan that they wouldn't come to the WWE unless it was financially worth it. So I imagine WWE is paying them pretty well to come on over if it is indeed true. Luke Gallows might do some time in NXT. Seems like, you know, there's not a really huge demand for someone like him on the main roster. So for them to bring him in, and even Carl Anderson, I think those guys would probably be your most likely to be in NXT. And I wish them nothing but the best. So many guys have made the jump over to NXT that have huge success all over the world, wrestling independents in Japan and all over the place. It's nice to see when the WWE grabs another handful of guys to put into their system. And not a moment too soon, too, because Finn Balor should be making his way up to the main roster pretty soon. Samoa Joe as well. I mean, how long is he going to sit around in NXT? Wouldn't be surprised to see him come up either. And both of those guys should get spots in the Royal Rumble, in my opinion. I don't know if they're going to do a takeover show before the Royal Rumble, but if Finn Balor is still NXT champion, I would love to see the NXT champion get a shot at the WWE title in the Royal Rumble match. That would be pretty awesome. So that's it for this week. I'm going to get out of here now. Now that WrestleMania season is upon us, please leave me all your comments and storyline directions, what you think or what you would like to see WWE do as far as Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Fastlane, all that stuff, even the Hall of Fame. Give me every opinion you can possibly think of. I would love to read it. I will most likely be up here next week after Monday Night Raw, because Brock Lesnar is, of course, making his return. Unless the show completely sucks, I may skip it, but you can pretty much guarantee I'll be up here next week with some sort of a review of Monday Night Raw. So take care. Again, Happy New Year to everyone, and I will talk to you in just a few days. Until next time, peace.